with damage. They know that Doomhammer presents a lot of damage over the course of 4 turns. They don't have time to sit around and really just continue to kill all your minions. At a certain point, they have to turn the corner. And so that's what makes that deck, I think, so powerful, is that when it puts its opponent in an uncomfortable spot, they don't really have a lot of good tools to fight against it other than just a bunch of life gain.
And another thing that was important back in the old Double Doomhammer list, which Jackie developed, one of the important things was the Doomhammer. Having the Doomhammer made a lot of difference to if you could win the game or not, because Doomhammer does so much damage over time, but also with the Rockbiter, it gave you a lot of burst. So I've seen players fall short because they didn't have the Doomhammer. If they had the Doomhammer, it would have been a completely different game. So I wonder how important, if it is the Aggro Shaman, Trump will feel to keep that Doomhammer or look for it in his mulligan. I don't know if that's as viable a strategy just yet, because there's a lot of obviously early minions, but after casting the Chinese event recently, the Aggro Shamans in that tournament, if they lost, it's because they didn't have Doomhammer.
Yeah, so here we go. Game number 1's getting underway. Trump's putting on a coat because it's mighty cold in the UK, I imagine, this time of year. Lifecoach looks like he's kind of going with a more traditional handlock deck with 2 Mountain Giants in the opening hand. And Trump has opened up with Secret Keeper, and I mean, that pretty much tells the entire story. I don't think he's trying to counter secret decks in this event. I would say he's playing a bunch of secrets himself.
Yeah, I'd probably say that as well. So Secret Paladin, the more mid-range variations that's coming out at the moment with, the Tyrion and Dr. Boom. But one thing I've seen included recently is 1 copy of Divine Favor to punish stuff like Reno Warlock, Handlock, although it's not as popular at the moment. But the Reno decks do like having a lot of cards in hand. So 1 Divine Favor generally seems to be okay at the moment, but that's a nice curve for Trump at the moment. It's just missing the 3, but overall that looks pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much he can make up the 3 in a lot of different ways, to be it a minion, be it just a secret to go along with the hero power, a lot of different ways to fill in his curve, and then it's going to follow up very strong afterwards. Meanwhile, Lifecoach, not a surprise to see Voidcaller in his opening hand. We did see Mal'Ganis during the Mulligan phase, and a pretty decent opener for him, too. I mean, there's always the threat of Ancient Watcher with Iron Begal, just the fact that you have presence on the board to threaten Shadow Flame, to threaten big taunts. We kind of got the battle going here early, and that's what I like to see.
And Lifecoach doing what he does best, playing decks he's comfortable with, playing decks he's spent all year playing. So that just gives him, in my opinion, more chance to become victorious, because he has so much experience with these decks and in matchups. So situations that will come up again and again, he will know how to respond to them because he's been in them so many times.
I mean, in typical Lifecoach fashion, he is never in a hurry. I feel like Lifecoach is like the only guy in the line at Starbucks who's like 16 people back and like has a smile on his face the whole time.
Oh, he'd love Britain. There's queues all the time for everything in Britain. He'd love living here. and the British hate queuing, so he'd be the one guy smiling, all the other guys in the queue would just be like snarling at him. Why is he so happy?
Aquablad, what are you talking about? I have never met a British person that's ever complained about anything.
Oh, really? Did you go
never
to the UK?
In my life. Yeah, I mean, I've met Blackout. He's about the only one, but the rest of you guys seem pretty nice, man.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so for Lifecoach here, do you like maybe the Ancient Watcher and then having the ability to silence it, to have a Yeti on the board early, just doing some work?
I think his major consideration right now is looking at the situation and go, how do I get to a stable point? So there's a lot of different ways to do that. I mean, Life Tap doesn't feel like it's necessary here. His hand is kind of low-costed curve, and he has a lot of great tools to utilize this. But it's just a matter of what direction he really wants to take this. I mean, I say that maybe he doesn't want a Life Tap, but something else I know that Lifecoach likes to do with this deck is actually keep Molten Giants in his hand. So looking for those gigantic swing turns, which is kind of what this deck does best, something that he's always going to look for. So to see him Life Tap, very consistent with what he's done in the past and not really surprising to see done here. And Trump, meanwhile, this is kind of his signal to get the go-ahead, has a very weak turn 3 on that, but he's basically just going to start pressuring it with Keeper of Voldemort in his hand. Is he really fearing those big turns with Molten Giant?
He's such a patient man when he plays Lifecoach, even when he takes his turns, but also the decision making he implies. Like, he is the type of guy who will think, right, what do I want to do by turn 6? What do I need? I'm probably gonna have to tap for something at that point. So he'll tap now, and then he planned. He's like the chess player of Hearthstone, I feel sometimes, planning so many turns in advance, figuring out everything. You can tell right now he's in his face. He's just working out stuff that could happen, what he may have to deal with. He just go for the Mortal Coil is really good because it stops that Keeper of Ultimate. Of course, he doesn't know it's there, but Personally, I would like to see a Watcher come down this turn as well. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously considering the implications of Avenge. You know, if Avenge falls on the Secret Keeper here, suddenly Iron Beak Owl turns into a very great play. He's going to get some good news. This is Redemption instead, which kind of something, you know, just a hidden benefit of his play. Sometimes it is Redemption. He goes, oh, okay, I drew a card and I killed I killed an entire card of yours for 1 mana. You know, pretty much can't get much better than that. And so since he sees there's no Avenge, not a risk of a ton of damage, why not just develop the Ancient Watcher?
Yeah, and the Immortal Coil also tests Repentance as well. Well, if it doesn't, nothing happens, you can make a read on Repentance, or you can make a read on Competitive Spirit. So it looks like the pressure is being put on Lifecoach here, but with that Molten Giant in hand and the Argus, it will be a good opportunity for them to stabilize in the future. But, you know, Trump's got a very strong board here. It's quite threatening, with no AoE removal coming from Lifecoach yet.
Yeah, this is really, I think, one of the most critical turns of the game is what ends up, like, how does Lifecoach's turn really affect what Trump's going to do? Can he play anything that wants to put Trump in a more trading situation? Does he want to take more damage potentially because he's got Molten Giant in his hand? This turn's really going to tell us a lot, but I think he's got a lot of tools to make this happen. But I look at Trump's hand, and with Coghammer, Lotheb, and Keeper of Voldemort, he's got a lot of tools to fight back.
Yeah, that Alderman's going to play a very key role in dealing with these giants. He has a Mountain Giant available to him this turn, so he could deal with that. The Molten Giant, of course, is definitely going to come into play very soon, as his life is going to get depleted, and Trent is just going to put the pressure on. Another card that kind of stands out is Void Caller as well, because if it finds the Jaraxxus, that's an amazing taunt target against a deck like these Paladins who don't pack equality all the time. And this is maybe what he's looking at here, getting that massive 315 body, chucking a taunt on it, and then saying, try and punch through Jaraxxus, because he's going to be here a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a totally legitimate plan, too. I mean, you think about the amount of time that could potentially buy you. Outside of Keeper of Voldemort, there's really not a lot of ways for Trump to push through. Now, when Trump sees Void Caller, he knows that Keeper of Voldemort is going to be one of his key cards this game. If he doesn't need the Keeper of Voldemort, he's probably just won the game anyway, because his opponent just got a bad demon out of the Void Caller. But he's going to take this opportunity to just push forward, headstrong, no reason to waste his time on this, and then the Lotheb is going to shut out potential Shadow Flames. So Lifecoach has Molten Giant. He does have a big taunt here, but is that going to be enough through this pressure?
Yeah, that's kind of rough. The Lotheb, like I said, does lock out the Shadow Flame. Not available to Lifecoach at the moment, but it does lock out the coin as well, which is something he could have utilized. This is such a threatening board from Trump. He's so close to winning, and that Alderman, like you said, is going to influence basically if Trump can win next turn, depending on what Lifecoach decides to do.
Yeah, it's just a tough spot. I mean, you know, Molten Giant, I'd be shocked if it didn't come down this turn. And then Lifecoach is trying to figure out which one of these trades is really best. I mean, I think ideally he'd like to taunt up his 2 biggest minions and just try to really put Trump to the test. Do you have enough gas to push through this? I have 5 extra cards in my hand when this is all said and done. You know, that's a big threat. Is that card advantage? But is he gonna have time to make this up? You know, it's a tough turn.
Wow, this rope is burning down. He's got a choice. Does he pop the Shredder, get the Jaraxxus down to Banner, or does he just clear out some other minions? Knife Juggler, that's an excellent card for Trump. And Molten Giant into Argus. Which side is he? Okay, he goes to that side.
Yeah, so, wants to. If he's going to get Keepered here, and he's going to get pushed through, ideally he would want Trump to attack his Ancient Watcher instead of the Molten Giant. So this is actually like a pretty good work here to make sure the Molten Giant, it doesn't have a big target on its forehead right now. But again, the 416 taunt, I mean, normally this is like the big stabilizing point. Trump just happens to have Keeper of Voldemort.
Yeah, Alderman just swings the game completely. He can Alderman this guy. He's got ways he can deal with it quite easily. Maybe we're not even using a Knife Juggler. If he gets a lucky knife on there, he can just use a shield on Minibot. Lifecoach should be able to stay alive this turn, but how does he come back from this point? It's quite tough. Without the Shadow Flame, at least.
Yeah, I mean that's really the big tough point is, you know, Trump gets to manipulate this more than Lifecoach does. Lifecoach is really playing defensively right now. Didn't have, you know, obviously he would have loved the option for Shadow Flame last turn. Doesn't have the card, but Trump had also he Lothebbed it. So no lethal this turn because of the way the Juggles fell. It looks like, but he's got to hurry up on this.
Yeah, he needs to decide how he's going to deal with his minions. All right, just use his Knife Juggler.
Yeah, 4 points upstairs. So Lifecoach down to 6 and no way to defend himself currently in this hand. He can take out some of this board position, but there's no AoE, there's no heal, there's no taunt right now. I mean, this spot could have been very good for Lifecoach, but part of the problem with this is that you need to draw the right cards as well, and that's what aggressive decks are trying to do. They're trying to force their opponents to have the right answers. You know, there really are kind of no wrong questions. Any minion can really be a threat if it goes unanswered. But from the control player's perspective, there definitely are wrong answers to those questions. And right now, this hand, it's all the wrong answers.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Lifecoach has to respond perfectly almost, because the aggro player can just take control of the game and just snowball, which is what Trump has done really with this board. He snowballed quite early on. And you can look back into some of the earlier decisions of a control player, and that could have influenced how the game went or how he was able to defend himself. He just has to go for the tap here for the Shadow Flame or the Taunt Activate. It doesn't get either, and this is not going to be enough, right?
Well, he can from his perspective, Trump is going to need a point of damage to take this game out, but we can see that he's got that. So Trump fades a second taunt, fades the AoE, and locks up game number 1. And that's the power of aggressive decks. They will get going, and you got to stop them, or otherwise you die on turn 7.
Yep, and Trump taking game number 1 with a Secret Paladin. No Mysterious Challenger needed for this victory against Handlock. And Mysterious Challenger has a huge influence on any board, really. And at this point, Trump didn't even need it. Just the overwhelming pressure coming from his Paladin deck snagged the win for him.
Yeah, so I honestly, just kind of the way that game went, and again, looking at what Lifecoach's potential to bring, Lifecoach is really, in my mind, the only very predictable player who continues to win in tournaments, which is something really incredible to think about. But you can't just target Lifecoach in every single event. I feel like one of his weaknesses is in these smaller events where you can prepare more specifically for your opponents because you have such few to play against right now. I think that's really something that stands out about him. In the bigger tournaments, I expect him to have a fantastic edge over the field. But right here, Trump could have potentially just targeted Lifecoach, and look at that. just snacking on a cookie.
And that definitely looks like a British cookie. Very small, probably Maryland. Yeah, I recognize that cookie from somewhere. But yeah,
he got that from my pantry this morning.
I definitely agree with what you say about Lifecoach. In these smaller events, being predictable can be a big problem, but Lifecoach is a very confident player, and his confidence has definitely shown him some victories. But he's going for the Paladin here, and it looks very mid-range to me. And there we have Doomhammer, Totem Golem, Crackle, Lava Burst. This is definitely Aggro Shaman.
Yeah, usually something you would want to see at Aggro Shaman is to have them play a Totem on turn 2, but not really Totem Golem. You're hoping it's that hero power instead. So not quite the Totem that Lifecoach is maybe looking for, but this deck is not subtle whatsoever. Buckle in, boys. This is a quick one. Trump wants to get on the board early, maybe have 1 or 2 disruption tools, and then drive the action and try to push Lifecoach out of the game as quickly as possible.
And once again, Lifecoach and Trump are fighting the same matchup pretty much. Lifecoach will be defending and Trump will be the aggressor. And this is, looking at Kalfizar, this looks like kind of an old school variant of Lifecoach's Control Paladin. He was using Kalfizar in his Paladins back in kind of the March time this year. But this could potentially still be Reno as well, seeing the Tuskar Jouster. After we see a couple more draws, we may be able to get a read if he is playing Reno or not.
Yeah, my read is that this is Reno based on this opening. I mean, I would be pretty stunned right now if Lifecoach didn't bring a Reno deck to an event. I mean, he's been practicing them so much. He feels very comfortable on them. And, seeing Tuskar Jouster, it's a very uncommon card to see in just a regular Paladin build. It can kind of fill up the gap a little bit, but so far we've seen no duplicates. We've seen Kel'Thuzad, a Haunted Creeper, and a Tuskar Jouster. I think that this is a Reno build. And it looks like Lifecoach's hand has the tools to start dismantling this opening from Trump.
Yeah, that Alder Peacekeeper is great there because it slows down the Totem Golem. You just need to slow down this aggro Shaman with anything you can. There's no point waiting around. There's no time to wait because eventually what they'll tend to do is beat you on board and just keep putting pressure on you until about turn 5 or 6. And then their board doesn't matter because they've just got Lava Bursts, Crackles. They'll kill you from hand. They can potentially do 15 damage from hand quite easily. So being able to fight for board this early will definitely help Lifecoach stabilize.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you have all your minions early and then have all your burn spells late. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's the ideal circumstance. Trump, free to pick up his Divine Shield versus 2/2. The fact that we've seen just Jouster and Anti-Healbot, I mean, this is just screaming Reno. I would be stunned if this was not a Reno build at the moment. But either way, still great turns for Lifecoach. Just get to add more pressure to the board. Has 2 potential heals in his hand. You know, against this Shaman deck, they do not run minions that really cost more than 3 mana. That Tusker Jouster is going to be winning a lot of jousts in this matchup. And with 15 extra points of heal in hand, I think Lifecoach, with this board state, he may have already locked this one up.
Yeah, I totally agree. Having the healing will just put the Shaman out of reach so easily. One anti-heal bot could just be enough to lock the Shaman out, but having potentially extra healing from the Tusker is definitely really bad for Trump. He'll try his hardest to get this game, but I do agree with you there. Having board, having the healing ready, Lifecoach is looking in a very comfortable spot already.
Now, something to note, though, is that Trump does have a great turn to take initiative. I mean, he just saw Consecration. He has Sir Finley in his hand. Maybe he gets a hero power that can really push some extra damage here. Like, say he gets a Warlock hero power. Say he gets the Hunter hero power. That could give him enough reach to maybe get in a couple shots with his minions and then really stabilize his board position. You know, I look at this and I think Knife Juggler, Sir Finley, Lightning Bolt, and try to take control of this board again. But maybe he's got other plans. Maybe he's thinking about a totem instead.
Potentially. Or just double Knife Juggler.
Double Knife Juggler is totally fine too. One of these has a very high chance to live. When one of them lives, you get to play Feral Spirit afterwards. There's that Reno Jackson. Well, you know, I had said that maybe Trump could push through this heal, but now this is a lot of healing to push through.
Oh, there he wins the Jez. What a surprise. Tunnel Trog not going to be able to contest that. 30 health on turn 5 is not... it's not a situation for aggro Shaman that he can win. I don't think. You need to be at almost half health by now.
Well, again, you kind of take a look at it. You know, Sir Finley can really provide a lot of longevity. Feral Spirit is going to occupy a couple turns from this Tusker Jouster. If Trump can pick up a Doomhammer or pick up a strong hero power, he could still be in this game. Now, it's going to take him a lot of work to get to that point. He's going to need Doomhammer, period. But something else to note is that Lifecoach can't really wait for Reno and dip to, like, say, 8 health and then Reno Jackson. It's pretty rare you can do that unless you've just completely choked your opponent's resources. So you're not very likely to get more, I'd say, than about 15 health off of Reno Jackson, but maybe that's just enough at the end of the day. Trump's going to take this opportunity to Lava Burst, knows that he needs the mileage from this Knife Juggler and from his future minions to get this game under control and really make that final push. But you add Tyrion into that mix as well, and it gets scarier and scarier. Trump doesn't know that these cards are in hand, but we can see it. If Trump can
I feel for Trump, man. I feel for
He's played as though he could see Lifecoach's hand, which honestly is working, you know, that's his best plan right now. Man, is this an uphill battle.
Well, yeah, Lifecoach just has everything he needs to win this game, whereas Trump is still missing key things like the Doomhammer, like the Rockbiter, to really give himself an opportunity to come back. Finley, like you said, with a steady shot or a Warlock hero power, those are the 2 key ones. Well, definitely giving him an opportunity to maybe squeeze out a win. But depending on how Lifecoach plays, depending on how greedy he plays, that might play to Trump's advantage. If he does, like you say, wait to the moment where he's too low to Reno Jackson, Trump may be able to utilize that and finish him off. But at the moment, Trump is not looking too bad. You know, this Knife Juggler is going to be able to do some good work here.
Yeah, I mean, this is all because Trump recognized that he needed just the extra damage from his Knife Juggler. I mean, using the Lava Burst, it's a tough card to really decide, you know what, I need to use this defensively so that I can try to get more value out of my 3/2. You know, it's a pretty rare circumstance. We're going to see which one he discovers.
Well, no
what
instant
are his choices.
Ooh, steady shot.
I mean, steady shot's looking mighty good right here.
Yeah, steady shot's the one you definitely want to pick in this situation.
So really, really short on action in his Lifecoach this turn. I mean, turn 8's looking great for him, but the rest, this one's looking bad. He's going to heal bot for 5 health, but really the bigger story here is that he just needs a 3/3 body, and even going to add Ironbeak Owl. I agree with this. Shut off that juggle. You know, try to prevent some of that mileage he might normally get.
Yeah, the Owl's great here because he can't actually deal with the Juggler by removing it. And that juggler is going to be able to take his tokens out, and it's going to be able to do a lot of harassment on his board. And he recognizes that, and he takes it out with the silence. Very good play from Lifecoach there.
Yeah, and Trump is, this might be full steam ahead at this point.
I think so. You've got the wolves and the taunt totem to protect. I don't mind the trade here, actually. That's a pretty good trade. Use Finley's health to advantage.
Never, ever put out of the question the fact that Trump could be making value trades. Trading in 3/1s, trading in his 1/3, and still having health left on it afterwards. He's 28. He's got 2 lightning bolts in hand. He's got the board presence right now, but is Tyrion going to be too much for this? And I don't know. I don't necessarily know it is right now. And Doomhammer gets picked up for Trump.
That's a big pickup for him. He has more damage potential coming out, but that's 6/6 with the Divine Shield and the Taunt, and giving Lifecoach access to a giant weapon is going to be troublesome. No Earthshock available to him. Will he have to use Lightning Bolts here? Potentially.
Honestly, he can even pay 6 life here too. I mean, we just talked about getting mileage out of this. He might need that extra 1/1 to just attack multiple times. It looks like he's reluctant to pay 6 health, which I don't disagree with.
Oh, he's doing it that way. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's fine.
What's the hang on these lightning bolts? I actually really like this play from Trump. Takes 12 damage from Tyrion, but he's got the board pressure right now, and he's got 2 lightning bolts to follow up. This could potentially be a brilliant play from Trump, recognizing that this deck's not going to pressure him. It's going to try to pressure his board and then follow up afterwards. Now, if Lifecoach stabilizes, Trump's in trouble because he's got very low life at this point. But this is a lot of damage that's coming out, and this is the kind of turn I'm thinking of. Can Lifecoach afford to not play Reno Jackson this turn? He could, one Rockbiter is a major threat right now. Reno Jackson, he has to consider it this turn for 14 life.
Oh, I don't totally agree. It's very easy for a Shaman to kill you at this point from their hand, especially with the minions on board, which you can't deal with the extra 4 damage that's currently sitting on board. And Trump, so smart, like you said, using his life as a resource there to help clear up the Tyrion. And Paladins, one thing they've always kind of struggled with is reach, especially when it comes to finishing off their opponent, and especially a slow deck like Reno Jackson. He's not going to have really any burst potential. So while he has board, Trump takes a risk of using that much health, but it's just such a good play. And Reno Jackson does come down. He does recognize, you know what, Aggro Shaman can kill me at this point. I can't take the risk.
Yeah, if he hadn't played Reno Jackson, Trump actually had enough just in hand and on board to finish this game off. Ancestral Knowledge, a great draw for him. Your opponent has used basically all of their heal cards at this point. If Trump continues to draw burn spells,
wow.
We're looking at Trump potentially sealing this game up in the next couple turns. He's got 12 more damage from Doomhammer over the next 3 turns. He's got 4 damage sitting on board right now. And he's got 6, 11. He's got minimum 14 damage from hand. And he's got Steady Shot. Trump might be able to fight through Tusker Jouster, Anti-Keelbot, Reno Jackson with his aggro Shaman deck. If he pulls this game off, this is going to be just absolutely incredible. Knowing to pay that 12 life to run over that Tyrion to save burst damage in your hand. Wow, I'm just stunned that this is the play that he made and that he's in this favorable of a situation because of it.
But it definitely doesn't surprise me from Trump. Trump has worked so hard this year to become a strong competitive player, and we've seen his strength in the World Championship or qualifying to the World Championship, and Trump has now become a force to be reckoned with. Before, he was kind of recognized as a streamer, that was his main kind of agenda, but now this year Trump has been absolutely incredible, and his plays he's made during this game, where we were counting him out because of all the healing Lifecoach have just been absolutely excellent.
Yeah, and I cannot stress this enough. The catalyst to this was Trump willing to pay 12 life, knowing that Lifecoach isn't going to pressure him. That this is a battle of value, and him showing you that his life is a resource in this game. That is what he needs to do to get this job done. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Does he have the mana to cast this? He has this with a hero power too. This looks like lethal to me.
Yeah, it's looking really good. So he's got 6, he should have enough here with us. And the Steady Shot's going to make a big difference here to him finishing off this game. Let's see what the Crackle hits for.
Even if Crackle hits for 3, I think he's got this locked up. I think Trump has just won this game. You know what? He'll take a 6 though. Wow. Trump is going to fight through Tusker Jouster, Anti-Keelbot, Tyrion Fordring, and Reno Jackson with an aggro Shaman deck and lock up a 2-0 lead.
So Trump doesn't care about healing. You can heal as much as you like. He is still going to take you out with the aggro Shaman. And we were saying at the start of the game, we saw these draws from Lifecoach, and we were thinking, has he got the reach to actually finish this?
A very critical card in this matchup. But by far the most critical point was the recognition to attack Tyrion twice with his Doomhammer and be able to fight through it. Because he had those extra taunts on the board, knew that Ashbringer wasn't going to be swinging into face. And when Trump had seen so many different cards, he basically concluded that this was Reno Jackson. No, he didn't need to play around any extra AoE. Knew that this deck wasn't going to come out pressuring him in any step of the way. It wasn't really going to turn the corner. It was just going to try to choke him out of cards and follow up afterwards. Just wonderful stuff from him. And the thing that to me it's more wonderful is that Trump has been willing to really play the aggressive side of things. I mean, this is something oftentimes he's kind of shied away from. But the willingness to go all in versus a player like Lifecoach and really put him to the test and force him to have the right answers, you can punish decks like Reno Jackson that do suffer oftentimes from the issue of consistency.
You know, Trump's showing his knowledge as an aggro player as well as playing. It seems like he has a lot of versatility on what he can play and what he feels comfortable with for these decks. And you were predicting a Zulok from Trump here. Like you said, going for that all aggro lineup, trying to put these slower decks, punish these slower decks and slower lineups, especially from Lifecoach, because he knew his opponent was going to be him. So, Zulok, is that what you're going to go for Trump here?
Well, I mean, it could be a lot of different variations of aggro, too. I mean, we've seen Hobgoblin Warlocks kind of creep up a couple weeks ago. I know I saw Zalay play one to number 2, I believe it was, with Reliquary Seekers and Hobgoblins and some Wisps in there. And it just had some absolutely explosive turns. And really what I'm looking at right now is just how Warlock is going to match up versus Druid. If this is an aggressive variation, the Druid is really the deck that has the target on its forehead. But since Lifecoach is also playing Reno Paladin, he knows he doesn't have to fear a lot of early game pressure with secrets and muster for battles, knows that he doesn't have to necessarily fight through multiple consecrations. You know, I would expect this to be just an aggro deck, period. And it looks like Trump has gone with more of a tried and true approach, just kind of the Void Caller Zoo builds.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be the demon variation at the moment. I mean, we'll probably see some more information once the mulligans go through. And this was a very popular deck on the iLeague side of things. A lot of the Chinese players brought Zoo with them, and mainly the demon variation. I think at least 5 to 6 out of 8 brought this deck, so they seem to think it's a very powerful deck in the moment. And you know, Zoo has been tried and tested, like you said. It's been in existence for over a year now and had very many variations, so I'm sure Trump has a lot of experience with this deck as well.
Yeah, and we talked about it. The Druid deck would really be the one with the target on its forehead, but when it's got this kind of opening hand, it will fight against pressure really well. And Lifecoach, in true Lifecoach fashion, he's got a golden Sir Finley in his hand.
Finley is a card that's very interesting in Druid. I think Tice has been using it recently in one of his recent lists. What do they look for, the Druids? Do they look for stuff like life tap so they can draw more cards? You know, I'm not that experienced with using Finley in Druid.
Well, to me, it's just because the Druid hero power is, you know, it's decent, but it's not like the greatest one. So I think you're just looking for something circumstantial. You know, you're never looking for a specific one, I would say. You're more looking for the right one for the situation. And one of these three, not probably the right one. I mean, all of these feel like they're just about on par with the Druid hero power. It looks like he wants to take Steady Shot here to pressure that life tap potentially, maybe try to punish Trump for trying to draw extra cards. But I think the bigger story here is that he's just got a 1/3 on board. And a 1/3 bodies for 1, it's a pretty decent minion. And something else that happens is it fights against what Druid happens to be weak against. Very early game minions that can pressure your life total.
And like you said, Lifecoach has all the tools he needs to fight an early game. He has the Aspirant, he has the Rafts, he has a Shredder as well coming up on 4. Very important turn for Druid's turn 4, finding that minion. And this is going to be a bit of a struggle for Trump, and this is the matchup he was probably targeting with this deck. But right now, Lifecoach has the board, and he has tools available to him to kind of slow Trump down.
Now, something else to note too, though, is that a lot of times Zoo can struggle because it's 1 health minions have to fight against the Druid hero power. He doesn't have to worry about that in this situation, so this is a dynamic he can really consider and try to put maximum pressure on Lifecoach because of that. You know, he knows these 1/1s aren't really threatened. He knows this 2/1 isn't going to get hero power down. You know, he's just, at this point, he's fighting card for card, but fighting card for card against this hand is going to be really tough to do.
I imagine we're going to see a Shredder come out. Maybe a keeper if he wants to ping the 2/2, but the silence is definitely going to have a lot of use against a demon variation of Zoo. Of course, Lifecoach doesn't know this at this point, but I don't think Lifecoach is under too much pressure at this point. I think a Shredder is perfectly acceptable here, and it kind of says to Trump, now you have to deal with my two pieces of my minion, and I like a Shredder over, say, a Keeper of the Grove.
Yeah, I like the Shredder a lot better here as well. I mean, this really this puts Trump in a spot where he knows he can't just continue to take shots over and over again. He's going to have to fight really aggressively for the board.
That's an excellent minion.
Yeah, I think 2/3 is just about what Lifecoach is looking for, and Trump kind of finding himself in a difficult spot. But again, he doesn't have the threat of the Druid hero power to really take out these 1-health minions. He can kind of feel free to trade as favorably as he wants at this point, whereas really Swipe being the only major threat.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Steady Shot was really the correct choice there for me personally. I was kind of thinking the Paladin hero power wouldn't be too terrible, having those 1/1s to kind of contest like the implosions, the spiders, the 2/1s like you were saying. But Lifecoach seems that he wants to be able to put some kind of pressure, like to punish the hero power potentially and find like an early lethal with the Force of Nature. But things have slowed down a lot for Lifecoach. Trump has managed to fight for the board, and at the moment he has it, and now Lifecoach has to make some decisions with these Wraths, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Keeper of the Grove, Silence on the Egg, of course, is super important as well. I mean, this is basically why he held the Keeper of the Grove.
Yeah.
I think. Before Egg came out, you were free to just kill whatever minion they had, and all right, you deal with it. But now finding themselves in these spots, and Trump, it looks like, Defender of Argus has definitely got to be on the menu right now.
He could potentially turn up the Egg now, because the Egg is useless in its current state, but being able to Argus it, at least it can do something, or create just another Void Walker. And he's managed to trade quite efficiently as well. Now, Trump takes the board once again, and Lifecoach is on the back foot.
Yeah, I mean, second Keeper of the Grove drawn maybe can fight against this pressure now, but Trump's rolling turn 6, always Sphere of Doomguard. Just the fact that he's got Dr. Boom in his hands and that he's free to just continue to play 2 cards a turn and then life tap. I mean, it's looking like bad news for Lifecoach.
And that Steady Shot's not been able to do anything. He's not really had the mana to use it, but at this point, the Steady Shot pick itself is having no effect on this game. And like you said, Trump can just tap, play 1 or 2 minions, and continue developing this board, and Lifecoach is just really struggling. We might actually need a Force of Nature to come down soon, just to be able to try and kind of neutralize things and give him a chance to fight back.
Yeah, if he plays that Force Nature this turn, he's going to run into this Dr. Boom. Trump going to hold on to these power overwhelmings, realizes that maybe this is his turn potentially to push. And Lifecoach, that's a pretty dead draw at the moment. Gosh, I mean, just, hasn't had a turn to use these Wraths at all. Haven't really had an opportunity to hero power since he took Steady Shot. And Trump is really taking advantage of the fact that Druid is lacking that 1 extra point of damage per turn as they see fit. Rolling into Dr. Boom, if Lifecoach doesn't find a way to handle this, there's 8 points from hand, the Boombot damage, the 7/7 body, the Knife Juggler. It's almost like he's got too much stuff to handle, and this is exactly what these aggressive decks are trying to do. They're trying to put their opponents on the back foot and really put them to the test. I mean, Force Nature clears up this board really nicely, but so do Wraths.
Yeah, you would have had Wrath hero power and cleared the entire board. He's going to be able to leave 1/1 around, which is pretty decent from Lifecoach's perspective. I mean, he's dealt with most of the issue, but Dr. Boom is definitely going to cause some trouble and might force someone like Force of Nature to deal with it. But that 1/1 alone is going to be really troublesome, because it's going to protect the Dr. Boom from the Keeper of the Grove and the Force of Nature and be able to clear the 7/7.
Well, that's not the turn the Lifecoach wanted to see, I can tell you that. And that is also likely not the draw he wanted to see. Now, something else that Lifecoach is actually doing pretty brilliantly is he's setting up a board that could punish Trump for not trading. And I think that's the situation he's trying to get to, is just to have Force Nature Savage Roar and really surprise Trump with the amount of damage he has. But Trump picks up Defender of Argus to go with it. 7, 8, 9, plus 8, 17. Looks like he's got 19 points of damage. But when this damage is taunted up as well, I mean, this is terrifying to think about.
It looks like Trump wants to continue trading as well. I don't mind this at all. I mean, his fighting for board has worked out for him so well so far. Just keep doing it. Just keep putting the pressure on Lifecoach's board.
Not only that, but that 4/5, when he taunts it up that willingly, that looks like there's a big demon behind it. 4 damage off the Boombot as well.
Oh, the mind games. I have a big demon in my hand, Lifecoach. Are you sure you want to clear this?
I mean, certainly you have this Force Nature Savage Roar.
Has to come.
I mean, it can't even be used this turn. He's on 8 mana. I mean, what can draw to even get him out of this situation?
If he decides to go for the Force of Nature, it'll cost the entire card to clear the demon and potentially throw like a Doomguard, a Mal'Ganis. Even something like an Inkgang boss would be just terrible because of Trump has the board and he loses all his tokens and then he's got nothing. So it looks like Lifecoach just might have to take a risk here. Maybe just play Force and reduce the cost of the combo and maybe use it for trading later. There's not a lot you can do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just no real thing to do. He has to take a risk. Hope that Trump doesn't have 3 damage, but he's got 8 instead. Trump is going to lock up a 3rd power overwhelming thanks to Dark Peddler. And Trump is going to take a 3-0 match over Lifecoach with 3 aggressive builds.
That is a massive victory for Trump, I think. Lifecoach being one of the best players in the world. Trump is definitely getting there. He's definitely building up enough strength in his plays. All the hard